Hello, Paul.
Hello, Robert Wright. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I think I'm going to introduce us, Paul. I'm Robert Wright, as you noted. I'm publisher of the Non-Zero newsletter, to which everyone should subscribe right after they smash the like button on the YouTube video of this. Is if YouTube is where they're imbibing this. You're Paul Bloom, internationally famous globetrotting psychologist, proprietor of the Small Potatoes newsletter. By the way, Paul, I recently saw something truly indefensible you wrote in that newsletter. And later in the conversation, I'm going to give you an opportunity to retract it and apologize to college students and professors everywhere who should be deeply offended. That's enough about that. No, it's enough about that. But first, we got a couple of other things. We're going to have a discussion about AI and like the impact of the Google antitrust ruling and all other things. Is it overrated? Is it taking over our lives? But before that, Paul, there are developments on the Jeffrey Epstein front.
Bob, don't you want to know how I'm feeling today?
Paul, how you feeling? Didn't I already say? No, I
No.
didn't. Did I
Oh,
just say hi, Paul?
I am feeling
Paul, tell me
actually.
about your feelings. Tell me
I'm
about.
good.
I'm very empathetic, and I know you're an empathy fan. So tell me about your feelings.
I'm feeling great. I got a bad night's sleep, but somehow I got a second wind, and the coffee's timed exactly right for this. Feeling great, feeling like exhilarated. I have like an MS doc on the side which has a list of topics, and we could go on for 4 or 5 hours and
We
just
may.
talk about things.
We may.
And I thought of something while we were thinking about topics for this discussion, which is one of the reasons why our chemistry is so good. Well, let's not deny it. We have great chemistry. Is that
I've never denied that, Paul.
we come at things from a different. You are, I think, in your heart of hearts, you're many things. Prominent
So
writer,
true.
prominent public intellectual, but I'm really a journalist. And so you're after what's happening with Epstein? What did Trump say? What's the legal status of Google AI and everything? I'm fundamentally not. And so I'm just thinking, like, I wonder whether we should give the malaria vaccine more importance than we do. What role does AI play in book writing? Is sexual desire innate or malleable? And so we come at this from somewhat different perspectives. You are very able to take the abstract game. I am, of course, extremely gifted at dealing with these journalistic details. But different peanut butter and chocolate. Anyway,
The complementarity is amazing.
it's just amazing. I don't know why more people don't pay for this.
I don't get it either. But you're right. No, it's everywhere we go. It's just like we mesh and it's like yin and yang kind of. Like, for example, you mentioned sexual desire. You think it's innate? I don't. I think it's a cultural construct. I
Oh,
think,
you
and
don't think
also in all other animals too. I think it's a cultural construct. These chimpanzees, you think their ancestors were having sex? I don't think so. I don't
I
think
like the
so.
sarcasm. That's you also use more sarcasm than me. That's nice. I gotta go ahead.
No, that's you're reading too much into this, Paul. Okay, so speaking of sex, on this Jeffrey Epstein thing,
Yeah.
you're right. I have a journalistic sensibility, so I'm going to first provide a little topical context. There's a movement afoot in Congress, a bipartisan movement featuring the heretofore unlikely allies Ro Khanna and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and also
Marjorie
Thomas
Taylor Greene.
Massey.
Even I know of her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Ro Khanna is a Democrat.
Okay.
And not a big MTG fan by and large, but they are trying to force a vote in the House to get the administration to release, call on the administration at least to release all of the Jeffrey Epstein documents. They just need 2 more Republicans, and then if all the Democrats vote for it, they've got it. Meanwhile, as you know, Mickey Kaus, I think it's fair to say you're bitter rival for my affections. Is that
Make
fair to
House with a C.
Kaus? Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
heard of him.
Right. Like you don't live in his shadow.
I am. We joked about this before, but I'm actually a big Mickey Mouse fan.
You are. You've said that to me privately.
Yeah.
And maybe someday he'll say to me privately he's a big fan of yours. Hasn't happened yet. Good.
I doubt that.
But Mickey has once again catapulted himself to the forefront of Epsteinology with a trenchant post in his Substack newsletter, Kaus Files, Kausfiles. I really thought it was good. I really thought it was good because he delved into this transcript of this conversation between Ghislaine Maxwell and, Trump administration Justice Department officials. And he found this thing she said in explicit reference to Larry Summers and Bill Clinton. Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary and former president of Harvard. And here's what she said. She says, they're men, she's talking about those two guys, they're men that went and had a massage and maybe did something sexual. They're men. I wasn't in the room. I cannot tell you if that happened. And if it did, I never paid for that, just so that we're clear. Nobody ever said to me, we had sexual intercourse and that was the three, blah, blah, blah. I think what she means is none of the women or girls, depending on their age, who gave the massages came out and said to her, oh, you owe us an extra $500 or something. Yeah. Mickey's point is that she's always saying that, yes, sex did go on. She doesn't know on which exact occasions. Obviously, one can imagine a situation where they're not coming out and giving her an invoice after each massage, but she and Jeffrey become aware of which masseuses are most, often asked to repeat a massage by a given guy, and which ones spend half an hour with them, which ones spend an hour, and so on. And it's possible that their compensation in the long run reflected that. I mean, his point is that, yeah, there was sex going on, and this just didn't get covered because a lot of the press was about her saying Donald Trump is a fine, upstanding man shortly before she was transferred to a country club prison, of course. So I don't know. Do you think he's, we can take this to grand jury, Paul? Oh, no.
Well, so I understand there's tremendous debates about in sort of Epsteinology, not just about the murder, but about the scope of his crimes. Apparently, there's a big thing involving Martyr Maid, this podcaster
Daryl Cooper,
who's accused of being overly sympathetic to Hitler, a phrase I hope nobody ever says about either one of us. Who has made
I think that's probably a bad rap. I haven't done an exhaustive analysis, but anyway.
Anyway, here's my question. You know more, but is it controversial? I always thought that it was just taken as true that the women who Epstein exploited, girls that Epstein exploited, also had sex with other men that were guests or friends of Epstein. Is that controversial?
Well, actually, Michael Tracy, speaking of Daryl Cooper, has taken issue with Daryl Cooper. I gather. I haven't really listened to the podcast or read the stuff.
I did not, yeah.
But he said, we talk about it as a sex ring. There's no actual evidence. I think he took specific issue with things Daryl Cooper said. And so it's an interesting question. If you buy this scenario, where obviously I think Ghislaine Maxwell is thinking, yeah, these guys could have sex if they wanted it. Now, it might have been at the discretion of some of the women, conceivably, that it could have worked that way. Even so, this sounds like a system for eventually channeling regular male guests toward the women who it turns out would be happy to have sex with them. I would say at a minimum. Yeah. And by the way, there is evidence that this stuff may have been videotaped. In my last conversation with Mickey on this, I mentioned that in my assiduous research for the Mickey conversation, I had found, in addition to prior testimony, that there was like a video control room, very credible evidence from very credible woman who said, testimony from a very credible woman who said that Epstein once said to her, I have video of you undressing in the bedroom. So, I don't know, this, you put it all together and it sounds like roughly what we thought before Michael Tracy intervened. I don't know. Now, that's not to say, again, that there was a concerted systematic blackmail thing. Yeah. It might be to say that once you know Jeffrey Epstein knows this about you, you're inclined to do him favors.
Yeah, we were talking about this before, and I think you made the point that, or somebody did, that Epstein need not go to people and say, do what I say. I'm going to release these
Right.
tapes of you. It could rather be, well, I know something about you, just much more subtle, much more, much more subtle and indirect, but still exerting his influence to make money, to get people to do things for him. Two side things. One thing is you send me the thing. I saw the thing in Kaus Files, and reading her transcript, this is entirely irrelevant, but to me interesting. It is very difficult when people talk. We typically understand what they're saying, but when it's written down without intonation and everything, it's kind of gibberish. The three of
Yeah.
us paid. It's very hard to follow what she's talking about. And I don't mean to imply that she's inarticulate. I think it's just that this is written transcripts are difficult to appreciate.
Yeah.
Intonation
I
does a
mean, I
lot of work.
think in that particular phrase is nobody ever said to me, "Oh, we had sexual intercourse and that was a 3." I'd be like, okay. I think they were either going to say, and that was a threesome, or you owe me
Yeah,
I don't know, something like
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
think her drift is pretty clear there. She goes on to say, I'd be like, okay, TMI, not my business. You want to? It's just not. She's
yeah,
saying she would have said that to the girls, right?
yeah. And
I
that
don't
I
want to
got. That I
know.
got.
I don't want to. She says, I don't want to know. Maybe there's that. But did I think these guys were coming for that? And then she goes on to say, I really don't, which, and goes on about how, hey, they must have, let's see, if you met Epstein, there's no way this cast of characters, which it's extraordinary. And some are in your cabinet, talking to this Trump official. Some are in your cabinet. I'm trying to think which ones. Anyway, one of them is in the Oval Office, by the way. And some are in your cabinet who you value as your coworkers, and would be with him if he was a creeper because they wanted sexual favor. In other words, they wouldn't do it just for sex, and that may be true. I think Epstein provided a number of services, but this could have been. That's kind of irrelevant. I mean, how he lured them in, as it were.
I'm sure I've asked you this before, but do you think there's a Trump tape?
What do you mean by Trump tape? Oh, a tape. Well, he did have a break with Epstein pretty early because
That's true,
Epstein
actually.
was
They used to be
hitting on
very
the
close.
daughter of a Mar-a-Lago client. Um, uh, Several years before the first indictment of Epstein. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's testimony that Trump was doing weird shit with women and girls in association with Epstein. And that, if you want to hear the details, you can go to my last conversation with Mickey. But I don't know. Now, I gather you had a little issue with Mickey's Colonel
I
Klink
mean,
reference.
he began, I forget his name, but with a quote from Colonel Klink, and he mentioned Colonel Klink many times in his little discussion. Um, I happen to know who Colonel Klink is, and
I happen to know who Colonel Klink
I
is.
know the quote. I see nothing, though much better said with a German accent, which I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
try. Um, what percentage? What percentage of the listeners right now? This could be our shibboleth at the end. Colonel Klink have heard. It is a reference to the TV show Hogan's Heroes,
Mm-hmm.
which played a very long time ago, for not very long, and was based on an extremely dubious comic premise of
It was a
wacky.
comedy about a POW camp in World War II Germany. That's right, younger
Yeah,
viewers. You heard it
yeah,
right. It's
yeah.
a comedy about a POW camp in World War II Germany.
Young
Okay.
people think they're so brave, but look where we went.
Yeah,
But
that was
yes,
edgy.
yes, they would. I think they'd regularly escape from the. I remember seeing it. I have very little memories. They had this the guy who played Hogan is
Bob
a
Crane.
Bob Crane had. I have him associated with incredible sexual adventures.
Oh, I can elaborate.
Oh, go,
There was
please do.
there was actually a movie about this, although I didn't see the movie, but I guess I heard a podcast about the movie or something. That's a weird and sordid story. And in fact, it turns out Bob Crane, the guy who played Hogan, was a pioneer of surreptitiously taping sexual adventures. A
We just we
pioneer back
we
in
just go
VHS days.
we just go full
And
circle. Like it's like
however,
we
first
met for 2 hours to discuss this ahead of time to make the Bob. Go ahead.
But first, I'd like to pause to humiliate you, Paul. You said you know Colonel Klink. And I know you didn't mean personally, but you
No,
meant you're intimately familiar with the character of Colonel Klink on Hogan's Heroes. Is that
yes.
right? Well, I'd just like to
Yes.
inform you that both you and Mickey made a mistake. It wasn't Colonel Klink who said, I know nothing. It was Sergeant Schultz, Paul. Sergeant Schultz.
Really?
I know nothing.
Oh, you are totally right. I am looking
Of
at
course
Colonel
I'm
Klink
right.
now.
This is my fucking show, man. I'm right about everything.
This is a journalist in you. You are totally right. Colonel Klink
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
the
No, I have a
leader of the
fact
camp.
checking department like that just fed me that thing about Sergeant Schultz. I'm not old enough to remember, by the way. I'm
No,
not,
oh
if you
no.
think I'm old enough to remember, what was in the TV shows in the mid to late 60s, you're getting me mixed up
Yeah.
with another infallible podcast host. But anyway, so enough about that. No, Bob Crane, after Hogan's Heroes went off the air, but he was still a widely recognized figure. He did the dinner theater circuit where you would travel around and go to like local theaters in like Phoenix and wherever. I don't know what towns he went to. And he'd be the star of the show. And afterwards, I think he would mingle with the audience and he would manage to find a woman, perhaps a lonely housewife, a divorcee, who knows, who would have sex with him. And he had a partner, a guy who we think later beat him to death, Paul. This is such a sordid story. Bob Crane was, I think, beaten to death.
Wow.
By this guy, we think. I mean, I don't want to get sued if this guy has a good lawyer or even if he doesn't, but he's probably not around anymore. Anyway, so this guy was enough of a techie to know how, even back, this is probably early 70s or something. This is like, I think before, maybe before video cassette recorders were even available in the market, before you could tape a TV show. Maybe. This guy was setting up this equipment secretly, and they would tape these sexual encounters unbeknownst to the women. And then apparently Bob Crane, I don't know how conjectural this part is, but said to the guy, hey, it's been real, but, you know, I don't think I'm going to keep this up, or maybe he found a better techie, who knows. But the speculation is that out of bitterness, the guy brought it into Bob Crane's life. I hope I'm not getting Bob Crane mixed up with somebody else.
Could be
I don't
Colonel
think
Klink,
so.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Were the tapes made just for Crane's private viewing
Well,
or
there's apparently a
blackmail or
scene. It's funny. I heard a scene described, a scene in the movie described, which I haven't seen. I think it had Greg Kinnear or somebody as Crane.
oh,
I don't know.
oh I can see it. I can see it. That's good.
Have you seen it?
No, I can see
Um,
Greg Kinnear playing Bob Crane.
okay, Crane. This is Google's AI overview. What a great transition to our next section. He was found bludgeoned to death in his Scottsdale, Arizona. That's why I was thinking Phoenix, I guess. Scottsdale, Arizona apartment in 1978. So that was before, oh, yeah, that was before video cassette recorders, home video cassette recorders.
You were just a toddler.
And, oh, apparently it's not conjectural. Wait, by his co-star after he failed to show up for a lunch meeting. I think I think Google's AI. His friend and business associate, John Carper, was arrested and charged with a murder in 1992, but was acquitted at trial in 1994. I think that the first thing is a misprint. I suspect his co-star found him. This guy was not his co-star. I think
Yeah.
his friend and business associate, John Carper. Okay. So he was acquitted. So I withdraw everything. He was acquitted due to insufficient proof.
I do not want to get caught up in a lawsuit that's going to happen. It's an honest mistake.
No, you know nothing. You know nothing, Paul. God, he was only 49. So kids, don't descend into a life of sordid sexual adventure, or you may die young. 49 is too young to die.
49 is way too young.
Yeah.
And this brings us to AI.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
Google, there was, I mean,
yep.
just a little topical reference. So there was this antitrust ruling that, puts some constraints on Google going forward, but will not deprive it of either the Chrome browser or the Android operating system. And those are two of the important platforms with which it's rolling out AI, especially Android, I think. But so people think of this as good news for Google. And
hmm
now go ahead.
Um, well, it's a more general point. A lot of people have been saying that they find the generative AI, the chatbots, ChatGPT and Claude, like to be tremendously influential in our lives and very important and the most consequential invention ever, which has led to a certain reaction. So Freddie DeBoer, who's a writer I really admire, but he writes at length with a lot of feeling,
Very
has
smart guy. He's been on my podcast
who
years
hasn't
ago.
been on your podcast?
That's a good point. There's no one.
Um, so Freddie basically has, and it goes on at quite length, says, yeah. So what would you want? Would you want to lose your generative AI, or would you want to lose your indoor plumbing? Would you want to have to get up in the middle of the night and go shit in the backyard? Or would you rather not have immediate access to AI? His point being indoor plumbing is a lot more important. You could say the dishwasher is a lot more important. Recently, in a back and forth, Gary Marcus, who just got something published in the New York Times, you might notice. Um,
Let me
uh,
guess. Was it skeptical of the power of AI?
it argued that the
Hmm.
failure of GPT-4 to be the impressive leap that many people hope for, basically, foretells the end of the failure of scaling, the end of
Mhm.
everything. Um, anyway, he said quite around really in response to somebody who talked about how consequential AI was. He said, "What about smartphones? Like smartphones have transformed our lives in so many ways. I could imagine," and Gary goes on to say, this isn't a direct quote, but Gary goes on to say, "I could live a month without any AI, miss out on some things. Take away my phone for a month. It's a big, big change in my life."
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think on the one, I'm sympathetic to these responses. On the one hand, I think AI could transform the world in extraordinary ways. But right now, it just is not as
Mhm.
consequential as something like a phone or a toilet.
I'll go with the indoor plumbing right now, but I think that's going to become a closer and closer call as the years roll by, until finally people just don't know how to get by without it. I
Yeah.
mean, remember the smartphone? You would have said the same thing about cell phones
Yeah. Yeah.
20 years ago, and before it's like, yeah, I can go a week without my cell phone. Tell them to call me at home.
Yeah.
But then they became smartphones, and the rest is history. And so,
Sometimes it's hard to
yeah,
tell. You think of it. I've read a few times that the washing machine transformed basically women's rights. That all of a
mm,
sudden, if you're a housewife, a mother, you didn't have to spend an enormous amount of time washing clothes or washing dishes, and that sort of led to a sort of technological emancipation. Birth control pill
hmm
brought about the sexual revolution. Who knows what the long-term effects of like Ozempic will be? It's just
hmm
I think, and then some things don't pan out. My favorite example that doesn't pan out is when the Segway first came out. There's like, "Oh, everyone's going to have one." The
this
streets,
is the this is not the kind of segue we do, right?
no,
Because
all of
that
a sudden,
goes
all
that's
of a sudden,
older than
yeah, all
time.
of a
But the
sudden,
segue, that
45 minutes
little
on Bob Crane. Yeah,
right.
it's those things you stand on, and right now you see them only for like tour groups, and I think what
Well,
ruined the
that got
Segway,
there was some money behind the advanced hype of that. There was somebody had a book coming out on it, and there was the
yeah,
company that was making it, and there were some VCs who invested in it. And so there was just some concerted hype thing about the Segway that never stood up to reason,
it
I
never
think.
stood
But
up, and I don't know if you watched the TV show Arrested Development, but
I have not
one of
probably.
the characters, this comic blowhard named Joke,
Mm.
would always come scooting around in the Segway, and it was this great visual joke, and it's just I feel it killed it. The other thing, by the way, the dog that didn't bark, I didn't bark.
That no
Um,
Bark in the Sherlock Holmes. Yes,
yeah,
Bark.
it was Google Glass, where you're
Google
staring at me.
Glass.
I would have thought
And
that would have
yet,
caught
ahead of
on.
its time, ahead of its
Maybe,
time,
maybe,
right? Now
maybe.
everybody's coming out with AI glasses. Meta's got the Ray-Bans. Those, they're not quite a thing, but there's such a natural to be a thing that,
I know, but it
you
didn't
got
work.
the
It didn't work
camera.
last time. I think there were privacy concerns. I think they look kind of goofy.
Well, yeah, but now the power, before long, it will be actually possible, and this is kind of mind blowing, to have glasses on that won't even necessarily give the game away. Depends on what
Right.
the laws are. Do you have to have a blinking light if your camera's on?
Yeah.
I don't know, and they will be able to. This really will be uh, possible. I think they will be able to. You look at somebody on the street, go to any city, look at somebody on the street, and they will be able to tell you. You'll get like a readout on your glasses or in your ears. This is so and so.
Yeah.
They went to college and so and so. I mean, you laugh, but there already is this facial recognition software. What's the name? Clearview, is that the name of the company that just went and scraped a shitload of social media? I
Yeah.
think. I hope I've got this right. And as a result, and once you've done that, the AI can handle the job of real-time facial recognition in principle and retrieve all this information about people. Now, that's not
I
a
can
very
see for that to
appealing
be,
use to
yeah,
me.
I can see for that to being legal prohibitions. So right now, if I take, and I've tried this, I take a clip from somebody, a picture, and I say, who's this? The AIs won't tell me.
Hmm.
Um, maybe they'll tell me if it's a public figure. If it was like Trump, they say it's Donald Trump, but
Yeah,
they won't tell me, even though they'll often know. And
yeah.
I can imagine it being illegal to use this. I mean, what a world it will be when some creepy guy could walk down the street and look at a woman and they get her name, her background, her
Hmm.
address, and everything.
Hmm.
I think privacy concerns are really serious there.
Yeah. Paul, are you old enough to remember the X-ray glasses ads in comic books?
Yes, yes, they
Did
were.
you order them?
I did not. I did not. I did not order them.
I
But
remember the illustration. So it'd have a guy like, I mean, of course, it was bullshit. They weren't X-ray glasses, but it would have
so
a guy.
what were they? Like
Yeah, I
what?
don't know. I think they would just give you a dim internal shadow of some of your. They had a guy looking at his hand, and you can see the bones, and then off in the distance is a shapely woman in a dress, and he's not looking at her,
No.
but so you can't see anything, but you kind of get the idea if you're a
Yeah.
13-year-old kid, right? So you did order them, you're saying, Paul?
I have several packs. I still have them lined up. I keep holding them up and they just don't work, damn it. The other thing I saw in comic books, which I remember to add, you could look this up, is martial arts things for us scrawny
Mm-hmm.
kids reading them. And one of them was Dim Mak, Dimmuk,
Mm.
Dim Mak. Dim Mak is the ancient art of the delayed death blow, where you hit somebody and then
Yeah.
like a week later they keel over dead.
Yeah.
And
No, I used to do
all
that to
these
people. Yeah.
teenagers just doing this, like how do I do that? That's real interesting. So
Yeah. Now, there's
anyway,
a lot of dead bodies in my adolescent wake, I'll tell you. Um, oh wait, what was I going? Oh, okay. So no, but a more realistic use of these AI glasses. I mean, I already use my smartphone to like I hold it up to a tree and say, "What kind of tree is
yeah,
this?" And then I have a conversation with the Google thing about and ask it questions. Or when you're in a city and it's telling you where to walk to get to some place,
yeah,
you'd rather not keep pulling your phone out, right? If your
yeah,
glasses, you know. So I don't know, man. I think a lot is going to happen. And by the way, Gary Marcus, back to Gary Marcus, the doubter,
hmm
who a year or two ago was saying, these AI give people six fingers on their hands. Well, they're not doing that anymore, Gary. And in general, I would love to do some kind of like depiction of the various things Gary has complained about, AI shortcomings over the last 2 or 3 years, and which ones have either gotten much less problematic or disappeared altogether. I haven't seen a six-fingered hand in a long time. And, you can, I mean, we had this conversation last time. I don't and I already did my little defense of the power of AI. Not that I'm delighted about it. I'm kind of worried, but I'm not sure if I mentioned this thing, Genie 3 that Google came out with. Did I mention
no,
that?
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, Google is now a leader in the generation of video through prompts. I would say generally they're ahead of OpenAI, but now they introduced this thing. They've been working on it for a couple of years. Other companies have been too, but it's interactive. So you could just show it like a photo of a forest or something and just start navigating your way through the forest, and it would keep generating photorealistic stuff. It would like create this world you're navigating toward. It's extremely impressive how it gets everything right. It gets the light right. Or you can show it a painting, like a famous painting, and then just turn around and look at this other side of the street that isn't shown in the painting, and it'll show you something plausible, and you can walk down the street, and it'll preserve, I think, the texture of the painting. There's
But I will say
advances
something.
on
I
a
will
lot
say
of
something
fronts.
in defense
Mm.
of Gary, which is
Mm-hmm.
they still fucking hallucinate. And I use chat, I use Claude, I use it for research purposes.
Well, I think Google got this thing wrong about CoStar. What the hell was that?
Yeah, they particularly, and I don't know why it's so difficult to fix, but particularly if you want something from it. So I say, like, there's a paper I've heard of that finds such and so, and a lot of my queries are like that. Say, here it is, and it finds exactly what you would ask for, but it doesn't exist. And so I find that AI is tremendously useful for all sorts of things, particularly like, I need a metaphor for this. I need some ideas for this. Suggest something like boom, 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 boom. But you can't trust it. You can't trust it with a quote. You can't trust it with a citation. I also wanted to say, by the way, Scott Alexander is one of my favorite writers, has this amazing post called...
Wait, I've got a great segue to that, which is that I was hallucinating, because I know the post. I was hallucinating when I said Google got it wrong. If you read the whole sentence, he was found bludgeoned to death in his Scottsdale, Arizona apartment on June 29, 1978 by his co-star. So that's a reference to found. It's not the best constructed sentence,
It's
but
awkward,
anyway, I
but
was wrong. I was wrong.
Okay, you were wrong. Human fallibility. Anyway, so
Well, that's much about what this post is about, right?
Yeah.
Scott Alexander's
the conceit of Scott Alexander's post, called "What is Man that Thou Art Mindful of Him," is extremely funny. It's the idea is God is presenting humans to a skeptical audience of other deities and a certain podcast host, and they just points out, look at all the mistakes he made. So he had a little clip. So he has one of them. Which weighs more, a pound of bricks or a pound of feathers? And the human says the bricks. And the other D is he's just pattern matching superficial features, like the word bricks, without any kind of things. And then he has one, asked him to draw a map of Europe. And it's this hilarious map of the sort I would draw. And over again, the claim being that a lot, and also the sucking up of AIs. What about the sucking up of humans, the gods and everything? And so at every point, Scott Alexander just points out, look, the sorts of things that we laugh at AIs for doing, humans do often 100 times worse. It's a nice piece.
Yeah, well, and it's not always a coincidence. I mean, yeah, famously AIs, for a while at least, you said which weighs more, a pound of feathers or a pound of bricks?
Yep.
And they would say a pound of bricks. And I think the reason for that is because it's a famous thing that humans got wrong, and so it was like in the training text, probably. Yes. But to some extent, I don't know whether that is true in that case, but to some extent, the things that AIs famously get wrong are things humans get wrong, and the reason the AIs get it wrong because they train on human data. That said, they are fixing these problems. You take a state-of-the-art AI and say which is heavier, a pound of bricks or a pound of feathers, it'll get it right. And I don't know how they're doing all of this, partly through reinforcement learning. But
I will defend Gary on one point that Gary often makes, which is, and I think he's entirely right here, which is Gary points out a problem, and then a week later the problem goes away. But a lot of that, I think, is patching. I think these people read the New York Times. They read the common examples. If it messes up on a pound of bricks and a pound of feathers, there'll be somebody, and I don't know how they do it, just kind of tweaking it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a test. There's a test for that. If it depends on the tweak, like we could just do this now. I mean, let's go to and what if you change it to like a pound of cinder blocks, or
which weighs more,
or a pound of
a pound of
what's light like feathers, or a pound of foam rubber.
Of foam.
I don't know.
Rubber. This is Claude.
I'll bet it says a pound is a pound, you dumb shit.
They weigh the same. A pound is a pound, you dumb, well, regardless of the material. It's a classic trick question that plays in our intuitions. And it's similar to the older. It's a smart person's answer.
But see, I think the fact is, I think you're right. There's patching, but some of it isn't super specific patching, and we may
Yeah.
have just come upon an example. These things do have some ability to generalize. I mean, I personally think what's going on in their minds is, or their brains, is very much like what's going on in our brains. And, more than we have yet documented, although we've documented that to some extent already.
In a more recent post, by the way, Alexander points out a nice finding, which is that if you ask these chatbots, "Are you conscious?" they'll either say no, or "I don't know," or "I can't answer the question." But apparently, there are diagnostics and that about what's going on when they answer a question, and these diagnostics suggest that they're lying, there's sort of a different profile when they tell something which isn't true, and that they're
Hmm.
lying. If so, that's interesting.
So wait, say that again. I'm not sure I caught that.
When you ask an AI, "Are you conscious?" it'll say no, or "I don't know." It'll
Yeah,
never say yes.
yeah,
But there's ways to get under the hood in these
yeah.
companies.
No,
And then,
I think that's a patch. I think they've been told if somebody
yeah,
asks you you're
yeah,
conscious,
yeah,
deny it. You know nothing. You know nothing.
that's right.
Um,
Oh, there we go.
yep.
The Sergeant Schultz reference.
I'm glad you got that straightened out, man.
Like a good AI, I'm responsive to information. You just still on the AI theme. I listened to this great podcast by Stephen Johnson. He's a really good writer.
Hmm.
I'm sure you've had him on the podcast.
I haven't. It's funny, actually. It almost happened, or what almost happened is an in-person meeting with him in Northern California, and then I was like running late, and it didn't seem like a great time for him. I know him,
Any,
yeah.
oh, shit. And Ethan Malik.
I've met him, yeah.
Okay, fine. And the late Desmond Tutu.
Desmond and I, we were on. We both played
Anyway,
JV basketball at the same high school, yeah.
anyway, they're being asked by the podcast host, how is AI affecting your workflow? They were both writing books at the time, and how fast or slower will it make writing a book? And I forget what Malik's answer, but Johnson's answer was twice as fast. I write my books twice as fast now. It
God,
streamlines research, it's summarizing, is twice as fast.
I'm feeling like such an idiot because I really should have. Well, of course, it's gotten better in the course of writing this book, but I really should have made better use of it. And I plan to still. It's not too late. I mean, it's not wrapped up, but it's a little late to get a lot out of it. Stephen Johnson was one of the co-creators of
Google
Google's
Notebook.
Notebook LM.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yep.
was the kind of writer consultant. He gave the input from a journalist and writer's point of view, um, and that's been a big hit.
Kind of a dream job. Like he started out a while ago.
Yeah, he's been writing about technology for a long time. I mean, he is a copious note taker, and
Yeah.
that very much went into his conception of what LM should be. I'm not, but still, LM. It's turned out to have so many cool things. It's the one that does the fake podcast. The thing that's going to replace us.
He's wrote many books. The book I love the title is "Everything Bad is Good for You." And
Mm.
his argument is that TV has made us smarter. And I'm not the slightest bit persuaded by the argument, but what he does document very nicely, it's what I remember from the book, is how simple stories used to be, television stories used to be. There'd be a single plot line where the characters basically repeatedly shout what's going on. And then I think Hill Street Blues came out. And Hill Street
Mm.
Blues did a first for TV, if I'm remembering it right. I had intersecting two or three weaving plot lines. And then that became the standard from everything from Seinfeld to Friends to The Wire,
Huh.
multiple
Huh.
plot lines weaving through. And then they started to weave it through across multiple episodes. And it got more and more complicated. Now, I don't think Johnson nails the causal claim that made us smarter. But plainly, TV, right? If you watch an episode right now from TV, done in the 70s or 60s, you think it was made for morons. It is excruciatingly stupid. If you brought somebody from the 60s or 70s to watch a single episode right now of, I don't know, Andor, or, any
Mm,
popular stuff, they would find it complicated.
I'm not quite so sure. I'd say a couple things. First of all, I happen to watch an old episode of Perry Mason, this law show from the 60s,
Yeah.
and I vaguely remember, like, I was too young to, like, probably absorb the plots back then, but I remember we watched it in the family. I watched one. It was a complicated plot. I
Really?
remember thinking it might, and this was before Rewind. And by the way, one reason plots can be more complicated now is because more and more people have the rewind option. I mean, when I watched Memento, great movie, but shit, if I
Well,
hadn't had rewind, I'd have been
yeah.
lost. And let's don't even talk about Inception, which unfortunately I watched in a movie theater and so have no understanding whatsoever. That's his later movie, right? The Memento guy. Um,
That was it. People pointed out that in Inception, you had people literally talking backwards because it's a time travel movie. While enormously loud music was playing. There's sort of Christopher Nolan themed, very gongy, loud music. You couldn't really hear a word anybody said in the whole movie.
So I had this conjecture that maybe back in Perry Mason days, no, we couldn't rewind, but TV watching was such a family event that during commercials, it could be like if you had a question about the plot, you'd ask your sister or something, and
Yeah.
she'd tell you. I don't know, but it was a complicated plot. And now it's
I
true
remember
that
my sister asking me when we were kids watching TV together. She said, "Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy?"
right.
And as the older brother, "Who's the good guy, bad guy?"
You were. It sounds like you were a good older brother. Or did you lie? Did you like totally screw up her molar polarity?
So if I could have flipped it, and with the
Yeah, you said
plasticity
no.
of the
Charles
human brain,
Manson's. He's the good guy.
no, no, I remember being asked the question, trying very hard to be helpful.
Mm-hmm. So, quickly back to AI. I'm wondering if you have personal feelings about like differing degrees of warmth toward either different AI models or the AI companies. And the answer won't necessarily be the same. It isn't for me, but I noticed when the Google ruling came out, I felt kind of happy because I didn't want the AI game to be left to OpenAI. I'm very suspicious of Sam Altman. It seems to me like a completely ruthless, power hungry, profit hungry company. And look, most companies are. Google has the same basic motivation, but I think I would trust Larry and Sergey before I would trust Sam Altman. I think that's why I thought, well, good, they're not gonna, they're not gonna cripple Google as it, because if they had taken away the Android platform and Chrome,
Yeah,
given the lead, right now a whole generation, I think, well, I don't know, but a lot of people think that AI is ChatGPT. It's like the
yeah,
word Kleenex for tissue.
yep.
And they have a big market share in the chatbot area. And I don't think it's healthy for any one company to dominate. But so there.
I'm just typing in what it has, what the market share is. 80% of the AI chatbot share
Yeah,
is
and Google's probably
ChatGPT.
got like 12, 14, and the rest goes to like Anthropic. And I don't know if they're counting Perplexity, it's got not nothing. Um, but yeah, it's pretty
I mean,
dominant. So
AI was the one thing we couldn't have seen coming, which was, something that would destroy Google search. And Google search is such a monopoly. I'm
yeah,
old enough really old enough to remember when there was Ask Jeeves, and
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
various other search engines were all vying for it. And my friend Frank Heil just said, "Try Google. I really like it." "Oh, okay, Google." Um,
Yeah. I mean,
Ask
Ask
Jeeves was fun
Jeeves,
because you had to ask it in form of a question of a for
right?
full
You were
question.
supposed to. That was a precursor of the chatbot search
Yeah,
engine, but it didn't work well.
no, no. Um, right now, there's people who use and Bing. I think Bing has always tried this, but nobody I know uses Bing. But now I don't use Google search anymore. I ask everything to check for quotes and certain news things that I need to
Well,
get.
I increasingly, if I'm using Chrome and so the search bar is Google search, I just ask the question there because it does have the AI overview. And um, turns out that last one was right, not wrong as I thought. I did catch it making one mistake, but
Oh yeah.
who among us? Um,
So
So wait.
I don't have any favorites. I like the idea of there being multiple companies vying
Hmm.
against each other. It's sort of standard, you know. So you don't have the monopoly. You have different ideas, competition, all good stuff. So I'm glad that there's more than a single company
It's
working on
funny.
this.
I feel warmly toward Claude, the AI, but not Anthropic, the company, because Dario Amodei is his strange and dangerous views on geopolitics and foreign policy bother me. He wants America to use to maintain an AI advantage and use it to bring China to its knees and force China to, like, I don't know, renounce its system of government or something. It's crazy
Do you
and
think that's a
dangerous.
well
But
worked out? I haven't seen this. A well worked out policy position, or just ways to promote his product?
oh, I don't think it's ways to promote his product. I think he's serious. I think now Sam Altman, when he says we've got to beat China, that's just, I think cynical lobbying to prevent government regulation and get government subsidies.
Yeah.
But no, I think Amodai. I think it's a sincerely held view.
To answer your question about preferred models, I've been using ChatGPT pretty thoroughly for a couple of reasons. It
Hmm.
has web search, which is really useful, and it has a good memory. So I could just say, da da da, remember this, remember these articles I'm uploading, remember that, remember who I am, remember the and
Hmm.
and so it's easy to interact with now because like I could say, I don't know, I had a bunch of notes and I wanted to turn it into prose. So I gave it to ChatGPT. It turned it into prose. 3 seconds was amazing. But then I went back to Claude and did the same thing. And the writing in Claude was so much better, smoother,
Oh
funnier,
yeah,
more
it's
human.
famous for that. Now, was this Chat GPT? Was this the
Model 5.
state? It was five. Of course, with five, you don't know which model it is, right? It's
It's
picking the
true.
model for you.
It's true. But in any case, and now for writing and for advice on writing, where's a good example? Where's a metaphor? What parts of this thing will offend people or whatever? What's easily most understood? The sort of questions you can ask, which I think are a really good way of
Yeah.
using AI. I go to Claude.
Well, I mean, Amodai, notwithstanding what I've said about his ideology, when he was at OpenAI, I think he led the team that gave us the modern chatbot. I think 3 and 3.5 or certainly 3. I don't know, but he was, he's very smart guy, and he brought a lot of people from OpenAI. I think most of whom were disenchanted with Sam Altman,
Yeah.
and I'll give Amodai this. I think he's very serious. I don't think he's driven by just hunger for power and greed, the way and money. The way I think Sam Altman is, I think he's serious about wanting to use AI for the good. And I think many of the people who came over to found Anthropic with him or later came over from OpenAI are also concerned. I just think he's wrong about what we
Yeah.
need to
Foreign policy.
what we need to do. I think it's the opposite. We need to cooperate with China. By the way, Tom Friedman wrote a column expressing the same view this week. God bless him.
There's an interesting podcast I'm listening to. Ross Douthat, who has been
Mm-hmm.
on your podcast more than once,
Oh, of course. Goes without saying.
um, has a really nice podcast called Interesting Times, and I've
Mm-hmm.
always enjoyed it. And now he's interviewing some guy who's an expert on China, talking about and I'm not done it, but he's made the case that China is doing everything better than us in terms of like making big cities and good infrastructure, small every that from an infrastructure point of view, China is really in some ways starting to outpace the United States. His
Yeah, they
argument is.
no, they just had this big what is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting in China, which brought Putin together with
What a segue. I know something you want to talk about. This is great.
masterful.
This is great.
Yeah, and this is being taken as China kind of demonstrating its weight, which it has. I mean,
The
and
guy, and I forget his name, but he was making the case that America's a country of lawyers. Lawyers run everything.
hmm,
Lawyers fill up the government. Lawyers are in the Congress and Senate and everything like that. Lawyers are great in many ways, but they're very good at saying no to things. China, he argued, is a country of engineers, where engineers ascend to top positions in government, have a lot of control, a lot of power. And so China has all sorts of human rights problems, but they're really good at building shit. And they take it
yeah,
very seriously.
No, it's astounding the percentage of people at the highest levels of the Communist Party who are engineers.
Yeah.
Xi himself, I think, is like a chemical engineer, isn't he?
Yeah. So there was a conversation between Xi and Putin.
Oh yeah, and it's just I mean, this got a lot of publicity. It's just kind of funny to me because they're talking about longevity, and so they start
They're
talking. I
both
guess
70,
it's
72, I think.
oh, are they?
I
Oh,
saw
so
that somewhere.
she says now people in their 70s are still young. And Putin says, yeah, earlier, oh no, she says earlier people rarely live past 70, but these days, 70 years. And then one of them says, yeah, still a child. And then Putin says, in a few years, with the development of biotechnology, human organs can be constantly transplanted so that people can live younger and younger and even become immortal. See, Paul, I think this is why we won the Cold War.
I these human organs could be transplanted. You wonder from the perspective of those young people
I
for
mean,
whom the human organs are extracted from.
this is not state of the art biotech. This is not what Peter Thiel has in mind when he
No.
pursues immortality. Let me tell you, Vladimir, you really, I don't know what to say.
There's this guy. Tell me if this is wrong. You followed this, but there's a guy, Brian, somebody who has spent an
Oh,
enormous amount of
Brian
money.
Johnson or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
enormous amount of money. And is part of the plan to transplant the blood of younger people into
Well,
his older body?
I think there's actually some evidence about that they did with mice, right? Like, you transplant the blood of, uh, I mean, frankly, this is the reason I've been kind of courting you, Paul. You are younger than I am.
You could do better in my blood. I
And
was thinking of
I just
sending off.
like to invite you to a little gathering I'm having
I
with a
was
lot
sending
of young
an
people
email
who,
to my sons saying, I've done a lot for you. I want a little thing from it's a
yeah.
little thing back.
No,
So yeah, so
there were actual findings about 10 years ago about mice, and it seemed to show that, yes, you can be rejuvenated with young blood. I don't know.
wow, wow. Um, so anyway, so these two of the most powerful men in the world, both known to be rather unscrupulous, have chanced upon the idea of taking the organs of young people and implanting them into their older
Mhm.
bodies. What could go wrong?
Actually, less in their countries than in ours.
Mm.
You might, you might, it might be harder to pull that off in our country. Although, I don't know, Trump, look,
We made it a
uh,
long time without ever mentioning Trump, by the way.
yeah,
And there's
well,
one other name we haven't mentioned.
you're
Let's
the
just
one who said that Putin and Xi are unscrupulous, and I was tempted to say compared to which leader of a great power.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Um, Teaching.
Yeah. Well, wait. At some point, we should go into overtime so that
Yeah.
people will send money our way. Yeah, teaching. Oh, I'm going to bring up this completely indefensible thing you said in your newsletter, and you're going to probably retract it and apologize, or maybe you'll surprise me and be stubborn. Who knows? A lot of drama here, Paul, as we transition into overtime, which is available to paid subscribers of the non-zero or small potatoes newsletters, which is to say your newsletter or mine. And what else are we gonna talk about?
You haven't been watching Andor yet, have you?
Doesn't ring a bell, but you can talk about it.
It's such a good show. Such a good show.
Okay. Okay.
It
You
was
said that with
it was so
enthusiasm.
good
So.
actually that we mentioned this, but Gilroy, who's the director, also did several movies, including Michael Clayton.
Mm.
And my wife hadn't seen Michael Clayton, so we watched it a few nights ago. Have you seen it?
No, but if you keep talking, we're not gonna have much to say about it in overtime. I'll say
Fine,
that.
fine. We'll wait. We'll wait. We'll save for the pain.
Not sure this overtime segue thing has really hit home with you here, Paul.
I'm not sure of the concept. Like you just mentioned, I just started talking about it. Okay. We were talking about vaccines. Well, I was going to make a complicated moral point. Um,
Uh,
I think we
yeah,
got
well,
it.
that's good.
I think we
And
got
then
it.
there's actual news in vaccines, and who doesn't want to pay to hear about that? It's so hard to find any. Anyway, yeah, and wait, seems like there was other stuff. Damn, but
No,
like,
there's
oh,
there's
I
a
want to talk about South Park. Have you watched South Park?
no. I know
Oh.
the Trump episodes you're talking about.
Yeah, did we talk about that already?
I think you mentioned them. Yeah, but I
I'm going to
haven't seen
mention
the
it
show.
more.
Okay.
I'm going to mention it more. Okay. So, folks, thanks everybody who
Smash
stuck
the
with us
like
this
button.
far. We hope you'll, if you can't become a paid subscriber, well, at least smash that darn like button or rate and review the podcast.
But do we have a ranking? I mean, does your podcast have a ranking on Apple Podcasts?
I didn't even want to know.
Okay, maybe a sore topic.
It probably is. I mean, I literally don't know, but I do know this. I don't want to know. But people can
I'll look it up
change
and
that.
I'll tell you.
No,
if it's,
I don't want to know. Not even at overtime.
What if it's good?
There's no fucking way it's good, man.
Okay.
I don't want to know.
Okay.
I mean, you know what I don't want to think about? That's what I will talk about in overtime, is all the podcasts that assuredly have higher rankings and arguably, in my view, are less worthwhile. This is a source of great bitterness with me, Paul.
I want you to name names.
I'm going to name names. But people got to pay for it. You don't get this shit for free, folks.
Good.
Okay. So, thanks. See you. We're going in overtime.